Anthony was to begin his shift the next morning at 11, and so he sat on the smoking porch with the roommate, Delilah, and the spiky-haired twins, Justin and Jaron, before work. Delilah was waiting to start turning the rooms, and the twins were swiping their phones and chattering back and forth about friends only they knew and about the drag bar they had visited the night before. "How you doing today, Anthony?" Delilah asked. She smelled of coconut and fresh hair gel, and her cheekbones gleamed in the sun. She had drawn blue Egyptian-like stripes of eyeshadow on her large, exotically tipped up and shimmering eyes. Anthony was feeling more confident, charming almost, because he was secretly fueled with the love of his life. "Wonderful today, Miss Delilah, just wonderful," Anthony responded, breaking into a beautiful wide smile. "How you doing?" "Well, I'm a little worried, 'cause we have so many rooms today that have to be turned. That convention in town, she said, taking advantage of Sugar Papa's amiability to prolong conversation. "Is that right, Miss Delilah? Well, if you need help, you know who to call. I help you," he said, venturing further. "I will, Sugar Papa. I will call you if I need help. Thank you," responded the delighted Delilah, not so much because of the offer, but because Sugar Papa seemed unusually and uncharacteristically unafraid that day, and he was not running away. Sugar Papa smiled and rose to go into work. As he did, he noticed Delilah's bare arm and how her beautiful black skin looked so smooth and creamy that it shone like the sheen of a rose petal. The thought crossed his mind that it was too bad that the woman down at the waterfront, Tracy, didn't have skin like this. Tracy didn't have this kind of skin. He was noticing women, but he didn't care if Tracy's skin was different. His love for that woman was sure. It had to be. He'd never felt this way before. Oh, he had felt attraction before, but surely this was something higher. It wasn't sexual, he didn't think. It was light, attracting light. Anthony plus Tracy, Anthony and Tracy, Tracy and Anthony. Anthony began to think of having children. None of his thought was rational. That day, Anthony proved true to his word, and he helped Delilah to strip and make beds. As they did it together, he noticed the quiet strength of her body and her beautifully shaped hands as she evened and tucked sheets. He felt happy to help and expel some extra energy at the same time, and was always happy working at the end, really. Anything to keep things going smoothly. He forgot about the woman down at the waterfront for a while as he rushed to empty the dirty laundry from the cart and restock it with clean linens, towels, wrapped luxury soaps, water bottles, and coffee pods. Sugar Papa and Delilah worked together discreetly so as not to disturb any visitors or guests, and their work was quiet and efficient. They laughed and giggled together as they whispered. They worked together quickly and well as they anticipated each other's movement in the process of turning the Victorian-style rooms into a fresh, clean oasis for the night's guests. Room to room they went, passing the do not disturb signs. A boisterous, noisy job would not do and would disturb the guests who were sleeping in and are only just arriving. The clanking of bar glasses downstairs in the bar, the laughter of the guests, and the smells of the day's cooking began filling the inn and the streets around about. One more time, one more day. Sugar Papa was feeling as light as the spring season outside the windows. From a third-story hallway window of the main house inn, he caught glimpses of the river between the buildings, and only suffered a passing thought of the woman there. He really loved being and working at Sally Jack's. The next day, on the smoking porch underneath the slowly rotating ceiling fan, Sugar Papa noticed that the twins' spiked blonde hair was punctuated with earrings. It suddenly occurred to him that he might like to have an earring. Maybe the woman down at the waterfront, Tracy, would like it. "Say, where you get your ear pierced like that?" he asked them. "Ooh, Sugar Papa thinking of getting his ear pierced," they joked. "Well, maybe I am, laughed Sugar Papa. "Oh, honey, you would have to get both ears pierced." Justin said. "I can do it for you." "And I can do your makeup," joked Jaron. "Girl, you will be gorgeous when I'm done with you." No makeup," laughed Sugar Papa, his beautiful wide smile breaking. "Just maybe an earring. Or two, like you say." "Consider it done," Justin said, and they arranged for a time for Sugar Papa to visit Jaron and Justin's apartment. Late that evening, and after everyone's shift had ended, Sugar Papa walked through the savannah darkness, past the ghostly Spanish moss-strewn trees to the part of town where Jaron and Justin lived. It was in a run-down, 4-story, historic building on the east side. When he entered the apartment, he heard the screeching of a bird and saw some sort of exotic bird in a large, ornate white cage in the corner of the living room by the window. The bird was obviously well cared for. The cage was clean, and there were but a few feathers on the floor. There were a great deal more feathers in the back room, where Jaron led Sugar Papa, as bright green, pink, blue feather boas could be seen draped on hooks. Wigs, red, brown, blonde, sat on wig stands near a Hollywood-style lighting of naked light bulbs that circled a huge mirror and table covered in makeup and brushes. "This is where I do makeovers," demonstrated Jaron with a wave of his hand. "I don't do piercings. Gives me the jeebies. Justin will have to do that for you." "Come in here, Papa," Justin called from the kitchen. "I'm ready for ya." Sugar Papa ducked his tall head around under doorways and made his way to the old-fashioned kitchen, where Justin had a clean cloth, needles, antiseptic, and a selection of small gold earrings and studs laid out on the 1950s style laminated kitchen table with the grooved aluminum edge. The table stood on a buckled kitchen floor covered in large, aged, dingy linoleum tiles that showed some disintegration in the corners. Justin gestured Anthony to sit in a chair while he pulled a bowl of ice from the old Frigidaire freezer. He busily chatted with Anthony about the day's work, the patrons, and the kitchen gossip as he skillfully went about disinfecting, numbing, and piercing Sugar Papa's ear, leaving a tiny diamond stud in each one. Sugar Papa was so distracted by the vigorous conversation that he was shocked that it was all over when Justin popped a mirror in front of him and said, "What do you think?" Although his lobes were red and swollen, Sugar Papa had been beautified. What had he gone and done? What would the woman Tracy say? Would she like it? Did he like it himself? Things were moving and happening inside Sugar Papa's brain and body that were new and strange to him and made him feel younger, not like a 50-year-old man. At times, it was an avalanche of feeling that he was not accustomed to. His spirit was reaching out past his everyday haunts and duties, past the security of those things he knew and counted on to keep his day peaceful, productive, and in control. It was a force all its own as it rolled over him and out of him, stretching his soul outward toward new growth in spite of himself. He decided he did like the earrings. "You all right, Sugar Papa?" he said to his reflection in the mirror. "You all right?" The horse carriage tours sometimes stopped at the sliding wooden doors at the back of Sally Jack's kitchen and smoking porch. A crate was kept there containing carrots and apples for a horse treat when they stopped. It was an opportunity for the guides of the tours to stop and point out the history of the buildings on the two streets. Sugar Papa looked down from the second-story hall window where he was repainting a windowsill. Looked down to the street below. He saw a carriage stop by the back doors of the smoking porch, and Delilah's long, black, shining arm reaching out to the horses with a few long carrots. "Just so," Sugar Papa murmured to himself approvingly as he stopped what he was doing to look down at the scene in the street. Just so. He loved the horse carriages and the visitors. He loved the tour guides and the inn. His heart was full and overflowing with love for everything and everyone. He was in love. That Friday night, Sugar Papa got off early, and he did not go to the waterfront or to the old house he had grown up in. He went to his room. He would practice his harmonica that evening to show off to the woman tomorrow morning. The Friday evening smells and sounds of Savannah puffed into his room in small breezes from his slightly opened window as he sat with Ketchup, the cat, in his green, high-backed Victorian-style chair to play. It was dusk as he began to play, along with the sound of a horse-drawn carriage just below and outside his window, horse hooves echoing through the lane as they slowly hit the cobblestones. Sugar Papa sang with his soul to the blank-faced Ketchup. Who knows how much Ketchup comprehended or appreciated? She sat hunched and content to have Sugar Papa with her for the evening. Sugar Papa was a little dizzy from not eating as much as usual. Just the thought of going down to the river to play in the morning made his stomach lurch. But he didn't care. He had never felt more creative with his music, and he sang and played as though to save his life. It would be so long before he had to go down to the river in the morning. But it was just a few hours away, too, really.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeannie from Trippin' Tarpley's Productions. If you're enjoying this program, please hit like. Please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And subscribe. Don't forget to take parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 in. You'll enjoy those if you're enjoying this one. They're each an individual story within a book, and I have original writings that I'm posting to YouTube. I have other videos. Please visit my channel. I have history, mystery, and my original writings and travel. So without further ado, let's get back to the program. Thank you so much for watching.
The next morning was a Saturday, his day off, and Sugar Papa rose with the light, and in a panic, realizing he might not get to the waterfront in time to catch the woman putting out her t-shirt racks. He quickly decided against the gray suit and felt stupid then that he had worn it before. He had thought it might impress Tracy, but it just made him hot and maybe look older. He put on a burgundy Bob Marley t-shirt after showering and brushing his large, beautiful white teeth. He combed his hair. The black had faded some, but it still looked good, and he admired the diamond studs in his lobes. He grabbed his harmonica and beret and ran down the stairs to cross the street to the inn. The sliding barn doors on the smoking porch were still locked for the night, so he jogged his way to the front entrance to go past the front desk and up into the brick continental breakfast room. He didn't want to eat, but he knew that he had to have something in his stomach, so he poured himself some orange juice and grabbed a biscuit. Just as he was turning to go, Delilah showed up behind him, wearing an apron and setting up food for the guests. "Hey, good morning, Mr. Sugar Papa," she said, plates of muffins in her hands. "Say, you sure sound nice last night singing. Heard you from the smoking porch. I said to myself, ooh, Suge jamming tonight." "Oh, thank you, Miss Delilah," Sugar Papa answered. "Gotta run. Good morning." And he dipped his chin. Delilah's face broke into a loving, dazzling smile, and her beautiful eyes sparkled. You go now and have a blessed day. You probably have a lot of folks down at the river to listen to you today. Lots of people in town. Enjoy." Sugar Papa stopped briefly and politely to return a smile to Miss Delilah, and when he did, he noticed the creamy skin on her chest and neck, and the small t-shirt she was wearing, and the shimmer of a tiny, delicate necklace around that long, slim neck, reflecting the indirect track lighting of the room. Brick, necklace, skin. Sugar Papa forgot for a moment his hurry. In sudden remembrance, he quickened out of the room to the front door of the inn and out onto the streets toward the riverfront. When he reached the riverfront, barges were powering slowly by on the river. He wasn't too late. Taking the usual spot across the street from the t-shirt shop, Anthony put down his beret. He played and sang. It was the best he had ever done. He wondered if the woman had heard him from behind the locked doors of the store. But how could she? Somehow, maybe. Then the door opened, reflecting the sun in its glass like a holy moment, and the woman emerged. Taking no notice of Sugar Papa, she concerned herself with going in and out of the store and pulling out her racks and t-shirts. Anthony heard a voice in his head.
"Go now, go. She won't turn you away. I just know it, Anthony. Go."
Was it Isadora's voice? In an impulsive and sudden moment of boldness, Sugar Papa bounded across the street to the sidewalk. "'Member me, Miss Tracy?" he asked. Startled, the woman turned and, looking over her shoulder, hand still on a rack, checked to see who was talking to her. Her long, dark hair fell like heavy strands of liquid metal down her back. Sugar Papa was transfixed by it, and the spellbinding flash of its power over him was like harp strings he had to strum somehow.
"Oh, yes, Sugar Daddy,"
she said, uncertainly turning to face him now. "Anthony, miss."
"Anthony, that's right, Anthony. How are you today?"
she chimed. She was so friendly. Good, ma'am. May I help you with those?" he offered.
"Oh, well, I would let you, but I can't pay you anything,"
she replied, assuming that perhaps he was a street person. "Oh, no, ma'am, I don't want no money. I got plenty of money. I work at Sally Jack's. Been there for 30 years now. I got a good job. I just thought you might want some help. I help the maids at the inn sometimes. Thought maybe you could use some too," he said, finding his charm a little and sending it out with a big, beautiful smile. Truly, his smile disarmed the woman, and she was a little embarrassed that she had assumed.
"Well, okay, sure,"
she said. Sugar Papa entered the store behind the woman and pulled the racks out onto the sidewalk for her. He was inside the store now. There were shelves and shelves of t-shirts, keychains, souvenirs, shot glasses, and little Georgia flags on sticks for sale. The smell of scented candles mixed with air conditioning met his nose, along with a feeling of depth of spirit within the old building. He stopped and looked around. He was giddy to be welcomed inside. "You like what you do?" he asked, just trying to stay in the woman's presence a little bit longer now that the task at hand had been completed.
"Oh, yes, it allows me to stay in Savannah. Something my husband and I have always wanted,"
she answered. Husband. The word hit him like a slap and a punch. Sugar Papa winced. He was afraid the woman might have seen him wince. She was still smiling, as though she didn't understand what it was she had just said to him, revealed to him. Just then, a man in a wheelchair came wheeling out of the back room. "Good morning," the man called out robustly. He was a nice-looking man in a t-shirt that showed powerful chest and arm muscles. He was probably fairly short, if he could have stood up, but he was definitely nice looking.
This is Anthony, Tony. He's helping me put the racks out. He works at Sally Jack's and entertains our customers out on the street. Anthony, this is my husband, Tony.
Pleased to meet you, Anthony. The man held out a strong hand and shook Anthony's hand as Anthony stood, suddenly feeling small in comparison to the woman's husband in the wheelchair. Sugar Papa felt awkward and wanted to run away in order to process all this. He just wanted to go back to his room and look in the mirror and process all this. "How do you do? It's a pleasure," replied Sugar Papa with his Sally Jack manners. The patrons always seemed pleased when he used the word pleasure in that phrase at the end. "Been helping out, huh? Appreciate it," said the man. "I do it myself, but as you can see." "Oh, no problem at all," Sugar Papa said, and knew he had to go, making his way toward the door. "Y'all have a good day now," he said, and left abruptly. He no longer had the desire to play for the next few hours because he needed to process this new information about the woman. At home, in private. Married. Husband. Permanence. Or was it? He needed to go. Distractedly crossing streets and stumbling a little on the uneven cobblestones of some of them, he was not even careful enough of cars. It was a miracle he was not hit by one of them. It was a beautiful morning in Savannah, with streets lined with trees innocently shaking their shimmering green leaves in the breeze, as though they had not yet comprehended what had just happened in the world. Sugar Papa bounded up the stairs to his room in the carriage house, and on entering his room, looked around. He wondered if the room would be large enough for him and the woman. And then, of course, there might be young ones, children. But wait, no, she was already married. He threw his beret and harmonica on his bed and sat in the green chair by the window. How could she be married? Unobtainable. The force of his feeling was wanting to ignore the fact that she was married. And to that man. Of course, to that man. He had nothing against that man. The man had been in a wheelchair. Maybe he would die soon. Maybe that man was sick and would die soon, and then the woman would be obtainable. That's a terrible thought. Just not right. Not right, he thought. But he did think it, and he hoped it. Sugar Papa's world, his hopefulness and happiness, had been violently ripped from him in the form of one word. Husband. How cruel she was, he suddenly thought. She had to have known how this would affect their relationship. Surely the woman knew and felt what was so powerful in Sugar Papa, that it washed the world around them, around her. His love for her collapsed into hatred. This was something he did not like to feel, and it was not a feeling that had been familiar to him for most of his subdued and self-protected life. He needed something to stop this feeling of horror and devastation. By now, the bar had opened. It was 12 noon. Sugar Papa crossed the warming street to the inn, where he entered the dark, cool bar. Only the bartender was there, loading large-mouthed wine glasses in to the wine glass rack about the bar. Cassandra, the bartender, was beautiful and plump and wore a white shirt, black pants, and a black bow tie. Her hair fell down to her waist. "Hey, Cassandra, how you doing?" asked Sugar Papa. He felt fragile.
"Hey, Sugar Papa, what's going on?"
she asked. "Can you get me 3 bourbon hard ciders and put them on my tab?" he asked. This was what Jack used to drink.
"Sure thing, but are they for a customer or something? You don't have to put them on your tab. We have a comp account for you if you're wanting to buy some guests a drink."
"No, ma'am, Miss Cassandra. They're for me. I'll just take them out to the porch."
"Okay, sure, Sugar Papa, sure," Cassandra answered.
a little surprised because Sugar Papa never drank. Ever discreet, she obediently mixed the 3 drinks and put them on a tray for Suge, along with a bowl of chips. "There you go," she chirped, and Sugar Papa nodded in weary thanks and took the tray out the old door to the smoking porch. There, the doors were open to the cobblestone street, and people were starting to wander past as they walked on the sidewalks of the lane. Sugar Papa took a rocker under the ever-rotating ceiling fan, and he began to sip from one of the drinks. It was his day off, after all. The sunlight broke into the part of the patio through the open barn doors. This is what other folks did on their day off. He was a different person than he was before. The woman had made him this way, and he didn't want to go back to who he was before, a nobody. He liked the exhilarating feeling that he got thinking about the woman Tracy. He didn't drink, but he could learn. Maybe the woman drank, sociable-like. He had drunk some in the Navy, but usually beer. Now he had earrings and he was in love, and he could learn to drink, sociable-like, too. An elderly man wearing a light blue polyester suit wandered in from the street. "Mind if I sit down?" he asked. Sugar Papa motioned to welcome. Wanderers by were always welcome at the Sally Jack. The man leaned in on one of the rockers in the circle and lit a cigar. "Starting early, huh?" he said with a chuckle, referring to Suge's tray of drinks. Sugar Papa nodded in the affirmative in his quiet, gentle way. The booze was starting to take the edge off his emotions already, and the morning was starting to look delightful, almost magical. The man in his suit looked like someone from the 70s, and he had white hair. He was likely going to get very hot in that suit, thought Sugar Papa. "Care if I join you?" the man asked in a gentlemanly southern drawl, gesturing toward the drinks. "Not at all. Can I buy you a drink?" asked Sugar Papa, remembering his Sally Jack manners. No, I've got this," the man said, and just then, as though the man had summoned one of the 2 waiters out of nowhere, Jaron came passing through on his way from the kitchen. "Excuse me, sir, can I get you to bring me 2 more of whatever he's having?" "A bourbon hard cider?" the man asked Jared. "Sure thing, be right back," Jared replied, and he hurried off to get the drinks and returned with them quickly. Sugar Papa was usually a minimalist when it came to companionship, and he suddenly felt as though he were about to be interviewed. He did not mind today, though, because everything was different than it had been. He and the man silently enjoyed sipping the sweaty, iced drinks through the tiny bar straws, and Sugar Papa felt like a teenager sitting with his father, a mentor. The man began to take on a look about the face like Jack, the previous owner, before he had passed away, only he did not look sickly or milky-eyed. There was a twinkle in this man's eye. "You ever been in love, son?" The man finally broke the silence. Startled by the question, Sugar Papa could not answer. "Well, I've been in love many a time, and I'll tell you one thing about it," the man said and paused before continuing slowly. "The beauty is in the person who loves, not the person that he or she loves. It's the loving itself that's a beautiful thing. And when you hear a beautiful song, it's the beauty in you that loves the song and not the artist, you see. It's the beauty in you that makes the song so dear." As the man said this, Sugar Papa could almost hear the familiar cadence of the departed and beloved Jack's voice. And Sugar Papa found these statements amazing. The words of the man in the light blue polyester suit fell like something akin to discovery upon Sugar Papa's brain and soul in that sparkling morning in the rocker sipping drinks. Something to think about, Something to think about. Giddy from the drink, Sugar Papa answered, "That's very beautiful, sir. Just so, very beautiful." The booze was soothing him, and the presence of the man was soothing him too. With that, the man rose from his chair. "Well, I must go. You have a lovely day, sir. A lovely day," the man said, and he bowed and was gone out the door as quickly as he had come. He had left behind one of the 2 drinks he had ordered and a cigar, and Sugar Papa had finished his 3 drinks on a nearly empty stomach. He saw the drink there. The bourbon looked like gold oil in ice cubes. It had not been touched. In his liquid state, he reasoned it was there for him. He took it up. It was delicious. It was still early afternoon, and Sugar Papa had also decided to take up the abandoned cigar that the man had left, and with matches from a jar on the table, he lit it. Just then, Delilah, the maid, appeared for her break. "What's this, Sugar Papa? You smoking?" she asked as she dipped in close to sit in the rocking chair the man had left. "That's right, smoking," said Anthony as he puffed cigar. "Smoking a cigar. It's my day off and I'm a-smoking," he said. "Well, you go on and smoke then," replied the indulgent Delilah with a flick of her pretty long fingers. "You're entitled." "You ever been in love?" Anthony let slip, feeling emboldened by the liquor to speak his mind. "Sugar Papa, you in love?" asked Delilah incredulously. "First you smoking, now you in love?" she joked. Sugar Papa looked down in his stewy state and did not answer right away. Then he raised his head. "I've been in love. I've been in love. I am in love," Sugar Papa blurted out to Delilah. She suddenly seemed like the perfect person to confess this to. She was so kind and balanced and beautiful, and the day was so sparkling and full of light. Delilah then leaned forward, checking her composure, not sure how to deal with the importance of the moment of Sugar Papa's confession. "You okay, Mr. Sugar Papa? How much you had to drink?" Delilah asked, not sure if she wanted to hear more. "No, I'm in love. I'm in love with a woman down at the waterfront. I am in love," Sugar Papa said, emphasizing his words. Delilah sat in stunned silence. "And she married, too, to a man in a wheelchair." "Does she love you back?" Delilah asked carefully. "She do. I know she do. She do," replied Sugar Papa crazily. Delilah sat back in her chair. "I wouldn't mess with no married woman, no matter what," Delilah said quietly and evenly serious. "Sugar Papa, this just don't seem like you. Where you meet her?" "Down at the waterfront, down at the river. She manages a store. She like it when I play in front of her store," Sugar Papa said. The words were coming out now. The words he'd hidden and harbored and cherished were all coming out with the assistance of the bourbon. "She got long, long hair down to her waist, and she sell t-shirts. Long hair. We was gonna be together, and she was gonna live in my room." He lied, the bourbon now steering his words, and at these words Delilah felt herself wince a little. Wanting to be supported, but feeling suddenly that the conversation was insufferable, she rose. "Well, my break is up, baby, so I gotta go. Don't drink too much more of that. You'll end up like Jack," she said, and abruptly left Sugar Papa to his rocker and his booze. That afternoon, around 4 o'clock, Delilah knocked on Sugar Papa's door. Getting no answer, she quietly left 2 styrofoam containers full of food on the floor for him, hoping he would find them. She left, and he did find them. He opened the door, bleary-eyed and sick, and retrieved them from the hallway. End of part 5.